Well, shall we get the show on the road here?
Yep. I want to mention, well, first of all, do we have any, well, I'll get to that in a second. I want to mention a couple of photo walks that we have coming up. Two in a row, two photo walks in 2 days. Friday, April 3rd, which is a week from this Friday, is the Colorado Rockies home opener. So, you know, we don't go to, we don't care about the team or teams. It's all about taking pictures of the crazy people that are down there for the day-long party. And that's a lot of fun, and that's being advertised in the Denver Street Photography Facebook group, our Facebook group, and Metro Denver Photography meetup group. That should be a pretty big turnout. And then the next day, Saturday the 4th, Jim and I are leading a walk from the Populous Hotel to Union Station, but kind of along the south side of the Center for the Performing Arts and along Spear and into that sort of old, over some really old bridges that go over the Cherry Creek. I think it's going to be a really unique photo walk.
Isn't that where they do the punts, the little river boats on the Cherry?
Yeah, if they still do it, yeah.
Up in there, that stretch.
Yep. So those are the two photo walks coming up, and then I also want to talk about the fifth Wednesday. The next fifth Wednesday is in the month of April, and for those of you who are new or any guests we have, we always try to do something on a fifth Wednesday of the month, whether it's a get together or something special here. So this April, on April 29th, we're gonna have a studio session where Ben's gonna bring his lights, Kiefer's gonna bring his lights, and in one corner we're gonna have a model and lighting people, and in the other corner we're gonna have still life and lighting objects. So that's gonna be a lot of fun, especially for those of you who are interested in learning how to work with artificial lights, which, look at that, that just happens to be one of our competition definitions this year. So please put that on your calendar. It'll be 6:30 Wednesday, April 29th, here at Lone Tree. It won't be on Zoom. This is a hands-on kind of deal, so please show up in person. I don't have any other announcements right now. Carl, do we have any guests, or do you have anything?
I don't see any on Zoom unless there's somebody sitting in the room there.
I do have a brief announcement.
Yeah.
Just so that you guys, most of you guys know that Gwen unfortunately stepped down as a mentor, but kindly enough, Mr. Buck Corson decided to step in as a mentor. So we have a new mentor, and his information is available, I believe.
It is.
Cool. So anyway, his photographs are amazing. He posts a lot on Facebook on his personal page. I befriended him, and more times than often, I'm surprised and awed by the quality of his work. So I think it's a good resource, and I just want to throw that out there.
Very good. I was going to mention that too, that he's joined the mentor team there. And yeah, like you said, he's got some really beautiful images that he's put in competitions already.
Can you say the name again? I didn't catch.
As Bob Corson.
Fred, are you ready?
I think so.
Okay. If there's
Is that a good definite maybe?
Good is gonna get to it, whether or not it works.
I'm gonna hit the lights.
Looks like you're gonna have to close blinds too.
Yeah.
All right, so this evening we are doing weather photography, and the definition was pretty basic, pretty simple. Whether it's a rainstorm or extreme weather event, go out and capture some sort of weather other than perfect sunny days. Obviously, the main intention was for you to ignore that voice in your head that says, "Oh, it looks like crap outside. I don't want to go out," and to get you out, kind of like the postman would, rain and sleet and snow and hail and all that good stuff, because that makes for more interesting images, as Larry will tell us. When I had a conversation with Larry, that was one of the points he brought up, is that bad weather makes for good photographs, because Not many people are out there shooting them, so you get something unique. All right, so our judge this evening is Larry Treadwell. Larry's judged for us a couple times before. Larry lives in South Florida, and he's an accomplished nature and wildlife photographer who has twice been selected as a U.S. National Park Artist in Residence. He's also conducted a lecture series on photographing the Florida Everglades at the U.S. Botanical Garden in Washington, D.C. As a member of PSA, Larry teaches an online course titled Creating Images for Competition. So he's in the right place this evening, that's for sure. Larry serves as a moderator for 2 digital dialogue groups and judges numerous photographic club monthly competitions, as well as serving as a judge for international competitions. He is a member of the Florida Council of Camera Clubs, and he's regularly served on a panel of judges for the semi-annual State of Florida Photographic Competition. He also does photographic excursions to birding areas in South Florida and the Florida Everglades. Reservations are required, of course, as typical with any kind of excursion you do with a photography leader. Larry, do you want to add anything to that, or tell us a little bit about your judging style or anything?
Since we're talking about weather tonight, that's what I'll focus on. Carl and I had a conversation, as he mentioned, that, and I firmly believe that bad weather makes good pictures. Because you're going to do something, you're going to photograph things that other people won't go out and see. And because of that, you have an opportunity to get unique images, and that fills that kind of originality void where you're not just getting the same thing. And I don't care where you've been or what you've seen, you're all up in those beautiful Rocky Mountains. You get a storm up there, you got all kinds of magic stuff that can happen that you don't see on a regular basis. So it's a great opportunity. So I've been looking forward to doing these images since we first talked about them months ago.
Awesome. All right, so our calibration image we always show because we know that Zoom messes up our images sometimes. So if you're looking at this and you see it looks maybe a little low contrast or color slightly off, just know that all the rest of the images that you'll be looking at this evening will have that same bias. But to me, it looks pretty good.
Yep.
But that's just my screen. Your mileage may vary. All right, so as we go through here, Fred will go through the images as they come up. Larry, I'll announce the title, and then we'll go to you for your commentary and scoring.
Okay.
Let's go, Fred. We're ready. This is first fall snow.
Okay, I find this to be just an absolutely lovely image. I think the colors are beautiful. The ducks in the water add a nice touch to it. Um, but when I'm looking at this and I'm looking for weather, I'm not getting a lot of weather. There's some clouds in the back that uh, perhaps are prelude to a storm, but we haven't got that far yet. It's a beautiful early winter scene without heavy snows, but I don't think the weather aspect is as strong as it could be. But I think the image itself is just really beautiful. I would suggest that in the lower right-hand corner, you got that little bit of weed and rock that's down there. That's not doing you any favors at all. So you might find a way to either just crop up from the bottom or clone it out or do something to remove that because I think that's the only distraction that you have in the image. But it's a beautiful image. So I'm going to make this one as a 8.
What the heck? Click on the image, with the mouse, click on the image. Number lock. That way I'll activate it.
Also, Fred, when you shared your screen, did you share Lightroom or your entire desktop?
The entire desktop.
Okay, all right, because we've seen problems if you just share an application.
He was over here walking me through it, making sure, because
I'm not that fast.
Yeah, we should be into the mist. Back one.
Go back one. There we go.
Yeah, into the mist.
Okay, I like the conversion to this. I think you've done a pretty good job with that. I would like to see a little bit better toning on that left-hand side, try to break up that mass on the side of it. I feel this has a feeling of motion to it. You have the the wispier clouds on one side and they move into a more dense cloud as they get into the trees. And that gives a feeling of motion, which adds to the idea that we are having a stormy feel of some sort, some kind of weather is actually happening. And I think that adds a little bit to it. I like the bottom of the image where we have the ghosty trees in the, because that kind of gives you a wraparound composition that fills the screen. I don't have just that massive emptiness of white. Um, but I think this is a very worthwhile image to show fog and motion, and I gave this a 9.
The shards of snow.
Okay, in this particular image, I see the motion because you have that kind of that wheel effect of of those white dashes are moving across the screen. That's what I want to get. But I need to have something solid and sharp to anchor the picture to tell the story. But I think there's just not an it's too much blur and not enough reality. I think those heavy white dashes are exactly that. They are heavy white dashes, and they are the brightest part of the image. And they draw the attention and take it away from everything else. And since they don't really tell a story, as much as some of the wispier pieces do. I mean, I like the snow or the effect of whatever it is over behind them, the person, but once we get to the front of them with those dashy lights, they don't really make the image work. So that's why I gave this an 8.
A peaceful morning.
Okay. I like the motion of the trees. I like that bend to the center group of trees and this kind of the way the branches kind of hang over. So it kind of makes me move across the screen and I get a feeling of motion moving from left to right. I think that works kind of nicely. Um, in terms of the weather aspect, the fog, if there is fog, isn't dense enough or formative enough to really have impact. This looks like one of those black and white images where you have black pieces and your sky is always white rather than being blue. And so it doesn't really carry the feel of weather as much as it does. It's just a white sky and it doesn't have that feeling that goes with it. So I made this one an 8.
Snowy dove.
Okay, I have the dove. He's clearly the center of the image, and he's framed by the trees. I think that works very nicely. I like the verticalness of the image because it lifts the dove and makes him feel more, for lack of a better term, bird-like because he's higher and birds are get him up in the air a little bit. So I think that has a nice feel to go with it. Um, there's a feeling of fog or mist because the bird isn't quite as sharp as he might be. So I can attribute that to the foggy feeling of it. But again, this doesn't really have that feel of a real weather. It's just like if this is a cold day, this is a winter day, and it's not giving me the feeling of real weather. So this one's an 8.
Snow has the right of way.
All right, I like this image. I think this is very clever. There's a lot of it's different in that first I like the vertical because it makes the roadway longer and I get that depth of image to go through. And if you look at those tire tracks, they move and then they kind of curve to the left. So that helps with moving into the image and deeper and gives more depth to the feeling. I love the transparency of the road markings coming through the snow because it gives you the feeling that something is happening. The snow is moving, it's drifting because I have heavier snows on the left and a little bit more on the right, but I still have the visible tire tracks that go through it. So I'm getting a feel of there's still something going on. The weather event is still taking place. And as those lines of the tire tracks move into the distance, if you go back into that top inch or so at the top of it, you get that there's a denser fog or a denser perhaps snow coming down or something back there, which helps to add to the story. So I think there's a really nice story here. I think there's a real nice feel of motion that goes into this, and I like this just a whole lot. I made this a 10.
Penguin weather.
Okay, I get a real hard grass impact of those bright colors in the jackets. So that draws me into the image, and I have a sense of location and purpose to it. I like the feel of the foggy mist going on in the background, and having those yellow jackets in the back helps to bring out the feel of the mist because it gives the mist something to bounce off of. The one thing that bothers me a little bit about the image is I've lost the penguins, particularly over on the left side, where there's a lot of rocks and then there's penguins. And the penguins aren't really differentiated from the rocks. And I think this is more than anything else is a processing issue because you could play with those tones, you could play with contrast, even with whites and blacks, and pull those penguins up to make the penguins visible, and that would give a lot more strength to the image and a lot more interest, and would make this a lot stronger. So this one comes out to be a 9.
A hike cut short.
Okay, when I look at this image, the first place I go, actually, I go to two places at the same time because they're both bright. I get those white clouds over on the left, and I get the yellow flowers over on the right. And to me, that's where the eye goes. That's the power of the image. And if you want me to play with weather, then yeah, you have those dark clouds at the top, but the dark doesn't attract the eye like the lighter colors, the brighter areas do. And so you're leaving me kind of moving and bouncing around the image and not really anchoring or coming to grips with what's going on. So I think that weakens it. The composition over on the left-hand corner with that little chunk of road that looks like it's almost a mistake on the side. If that road's going to be there, make the road there or make the road not there. But kind of that little maybe it is and maybe it isn't doesn't add strength to the image. So there's just too much going on that doesn't balance it out. You've got some blown highlights over there on the left. So it's an 8.
Braving the Boston night.
All right, I'm looking for the weather in this. This is what I'm really trying to come to grips with. I've got this kid or person, whatever they are, walking from the right, moving to the left. I The only thing that tells me there's anything going on is the fact that he's got a coat and a hood. So maybe there's something happening, but I can't see it in the picture. And then for whatever reason that you included this woman over on the left, just crop her out. Just remove her because she's not part of the story. She's not adding anything to the image. To me, the most intriguing part of the image is the fact that the child or whatever they are is carrying the dog, and the dog being the brightest part of the image, he's getting all the attention. So the connection between the person and the dog is the strength of the image. That's the power. But the weather is not really coming across. So this one's an 8.
Neither snow nor rain.
All right. Uh, I like this image. I think there's a lot of power to it. I wish you'd just give me a little bit more, and I'm nitpicking, at the top. See all those little window frames wherever they are? They're kind of half chopped right on that top edge. If you got just a tiny, tiny bit more up there, they wouldn't look like they're cut off, and they look like they're more at home, and they would fit better in the image. The story is the guy on the bike, and the fact that he's in that bright, warm color draws all the attention in the world to it, and that's where the connection is. The weather, I think, is clear and strong enough because throughout the entire street, I can see the splashes in the water, the puddles, the falling rain it's in there. Even on the sidewalk towards the back, I can see the raindrops hitting, and I feel the weather coming down. I feel the excitement that's there. If you would look at the foreground, you notice how the foreground's all in bands. And you have all these horizontal lines going across the image. Well, the big horizontal line at the bottom, the more whitish one at the very bottom of the image, again, it's it's a huge area of nothingness. I think if you crop that bottom line off, you wouldn't ruin your story. I think your story would be stronger because you'd have everything focused where I can see the splashes and the contacts a lot better. I think it's a well done image. I like the where it's all placed. So I'm going to make this a 9.
The Road to Fire and Ice.
Okay. Um, Again, it might be a road to fire and ice, but I haven't got it yet. And this is about weather and adverse conditions. And it's a long road. There's not enough, there's a little hint of rain in the foreground or something in the foreground that's spotting on the road, but not enough to tell the story, not enough to make it feel like weather. It just feels like a long, empty road on a dull day. So I would try to find a way to bring more weather into that. If you have that huge, I think you're trying to make me see something in the sky that there's clouds or storm or something up there, but that sky is as blank as it can be. And if the sky is that blank, then you could crop half of that off and you put more focus on the road and not on the bright sky because the eye is always going to go to the light and the bright, and the light and the bright's the top in the sky, and there's nothing there to look at. Um, it's an 8.
Braving a Snowstorm.
I think the arc of the tree is really kind of nice. And if I look at the snow that's coming down in the back, um, I'm beginning to see a motion that kind of makes it look like it's drifting. It's going to the right, and the tree is drifting to the left. So that gives the tree the feeling of fighting against the elements because it's pushing into that area. So I think that's adds a little bit of strength to it. Um, I think your processing could be upped a little bit because if you look at your tree branches, particularly on the center part of the tree, they're blending into the background and you're losing them so that they don't have the impact. The tree, it doesn't feel like the tree is carrying its fair share of the weight because it's too blended in that center part of the picture. And that's where the eye is going to come to a rest. So again, if you work with tones a little bit and bring up some of those darker tones, or add a little contrast to it, you might give that tree a little bit more punch and make it stand out, but it's still enough that I can make it a 9.
Frozen Gas on Grass.
All right. With this, I'd like to have the ice crystals pumped up a little bit so they don't kind of blend together. Get a little more contrast in those, and that would help separate them, maybe raise the black point a little bit. What makes the image is the cloud in the background. Because it's adding something it's other than cold. The ice makes it cold, the cloud makes it stormy, makes it weathery. And I think those two pieces come together, and that's what makes the difference. That's what gives the image strength. If we have more definition in those ice crystals in the foreground, it might be a little bit stronger, but this is a 9.
Calm Before the Storm.
I think the maker of this set their own score for themselves because we're looking for weather. And what did you just say in your title? You said it's the calm before the storm. You gave me the prelude. I want the main event. And so I think you 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 toned the picture down by not staying out in the weather long enough to get the storm coming in. And if you get that storm to come in, that would that would really add something to this. I like the angles of the rocks. I like the downward thrust that's all on there. I like the little huts with the grassy roofs. There's a lot of interest in this, but the weather part just doesn't play a big enough role. And that's why it's an 8.
Light After the Darkness.
Okay. In this case, we have a couple good things going for us. Um, I've got a storm in the background. I can see within those clouds, there's some rain coming down, and that shows you've added the rainbow to it, which gives it the rainbow is what really punches this image up and makes it work. So that's the strength of it. You might tone those boats in the foreground down just a little bit because you want your story here to be the weather, not the boats. And the weather's got a lot of strength with that rainbow and those misty clouds and the rain that's in it, but it has to compete with the bright boats that are a bright, warm color in the foreground. And so you're taking attention away from that rainbow and focusing on the boats. And since we're talking about weather, get the focus on the weather and not on the boats. But this was, I lost my place. What was the title on this one again?
So it's Light After the Darkness.
Light, that's right. Okay. This one's a 9.
City Park in Winter. And Fred, after this one, let's pause and do the 9s and 10s.
Okay.
Thank you.
I like, all right. The impact is the building on the left side. It's got the warm colors in it. It stands out. It separates itself from everything else. That's where I'm looking. That's what I'm focusing on. And because I'm focusing on that, I'm still looking for the weather. You have that blank sky. There's no real storm in the sky. There's no real power to it. It's a lovely urban scene. I like the feel of that. I like the little people over on the right-hand side, and I like the way the water crosses in front and frames that whatever that colorful building is in the background. But the composition is great. It just doesn't have the punch of weather. It's an 8.
Okay, Into the Mist is from Laurel Remmel.
Well, thank you so much. This was I took the Sea to Sky Highway in Vancouver all the way up to the top. And it was a very large photo that I cropped like way down in hopes that it would make it better. But I agree with all of your comments that you had to say. I had a problem with like the blob in the corner, and I'm pretty new to editing photos, so I'm glad it turned out.
Simple way to play with things like this is adjust your black points and your white points, and then if you add an S curve to them, it'll add drama. It will add drama.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next one, Fred.
Yep.
Brother.
All right, Snow Has the Right of Way is from Benjamin Hernandez.
Yeah, thanks for comments. The story is the better part. I was supposed to meet a friend to eat ramen at one of the places there, and I was waiting for him, and he called me and he said it's snowing too much. Thanks for him standing me up.
So Ben, did you take that image to prove to him it wasn't that bad?
No, I mean I was standing there with my camera in hand, waiting for my friend to eat ramen.
Gotcha.
And it was the one time this season that we actually got a heavy snow in Denver for like 20 minutes. So I did panic too, and then after the shot, I started driving home, just to get home and to find a perfectly sunny evening.
Of course. This is a great image. This is awesome.
Thank you.
Penguin Weather is from Oz Fenninger.
Yeah, this is taken on a trip to Antarctica, and it was snowing and the wind was coming down from the mountain. Horrible conditions. The mist or the snow in the distance doesn't really show how bad it was. And then, the penguins on the left there, they're black and white, so it's really hard to get them to differentiate. Anyway, that's pretty much it.
It looks like that's the kind of cold that you feel down in your bones.
Well, actually, yeah, it is, but Denver was colder at the time.
Really?
Yeah, this was maybe the mid-20s.
Oh.
And Denver was horribly cold.
Crazy.
All right, neither snow nor rain is from Laura Blake. And Laura popped into the chat here and said, thanks for the good ideas. I'll change it a bit and see how it looks. This gentleman was undeterred by the rain and he rode past me with speed. It was a rainy day in Paris. Braving a snowstorm is from Terry Hanford.
Yeah, so I just took this last few weeks when we actually had a snowstorm. So earlier in the year when I saw this weather thing, I said, well, great, it's going to be winter and there'll be lots of opportunities. And then we didn't have a winter. So I was pleased that the snow came in. I found it, and I've seen this in other photos this evening, it's really hard to photograph snow or rain. It shows up best if you have a dark background
Right.
and light coming across it that, hits it. And so a lot of things have to come together, and then even depth of field impacts how it looks. So this was the best I did in terms of actually capturing the snow. The dark area behind it is a reservoir, so it's the darker water. So I hoped that the snow would show more through there. But maybe it shows even better up in the brighter upper things. But anyway, I found this a very challenging task, and so I'm glad we had the opportunity to face it.
And you faced it successfully too.
Kudos
Yeah.
to you, Terry, for hitting the shot, given the paucity of weather that we've had this winter.
Frozen gas on grass is from Kevin McCullough.
Yeah, this one was I had to dig deep into the archives based on our winter as well. So this was actually the trip that prompted me to buy a nicer camera, because this was shot on iPhone 12 at Norris Geyser Basin in Yellowstone. So I thought it was 50-50 shot on the treatment of it and the editing, that all that blue was going to get me a 6. So I appreciate all your comments, Larry, and definitely agree on the getting the shadows and things up on the front there to give a little more contrast to the icicles.
I wouldn't worry so much about the blue if you're trying to do cold, because blue is that feeling of cold. So that's why I didn't mind the blue with this at all. And there was enough clarity in the ice that they still had a hint of white, and then the blue for the cold kind of pulled it together along with that cloud behind it, and it added enough to it. Because remember, I don't know this is a geyser. I look at what's in front of me, and all I can see is a cloud, and the cloud is in motion, and so that's what carries this kind of an image. But you did a nice job. The phone did a nice job of this too.
And Light After the Darkness is from Steve McCullough.
Yeah, thinking about the weather, I probably should have tried to get a little more contrast in the cloud in the back. The thing that strikes me about weather like this is that feeling of freshness after the storm is past. It's just, how the rain is gone and it kind of smells wet, and then you have the light. It just is a good feeling.
Yeah. Work on those clouds, and it'll get stronger.
Mm-hmm. Nice work, everyone. All right, that was the end of our 9s and 10s for now.
I've got more.
Oh, I know. We'll get to them.
Start off with this one. Next one.
Next one. Says cloud cover.
Okay. I think this really comes down to processing. You've got a lot of interest in I mean, the clouds are the brightest part. They have the different textures and motion feeling to them and lines and movement and all that stuff that works at the top. But the bottom of the image isn't really doing anything. And I think the big problem with it is you've got that big black band of trees that run across there, and there's just no detail in that. So if you open some of those shadows and get some different tones in there and work with the tones in the foreground, because the image doesn't have true whites and true blacks. You're mostly in the midtones, and the midtones without the true whites and the true blacks gives the image a much flatter, a much duller, a much less powerful feeling. And I think that's what's bouncing along with this. I think the scene has potential, but I think you have to work the tones to make it come out because otherwise it's just too mushy. It's an 8.
When exploring, Colorado Grand Lake is not to be missed, MIST.
I what I like in this image is that motion of the fog coming in, the clouds coming in across the lake from the right to the left. There's areas of them that feels like there's rain or something coming down, but the whole thing has this feeling of drifting motion that goes with it. I think that's caused by the lines that you have in the top half of the image, because there are strong lines that are blurred on the right and begin to materialize on the left. And so because they're coming out, it gives the feeling that the fog or the rain, whatever that is moving across the image, and that gives a lot of motion and a lot of power to it. I do wish the foreground, if you open some of those shadows just a little bit more to bring that, because it's that big piece of black where there's nothing. And if you have just a little more detail in that, it'll make it stronger. But I think overall, this is nice. I like the wispiness of it. I made this a 9.
Head to the basement.
Okay. The first thing I looked at when I saw this image is the crunchiness of it. If you look at the building over on the right, it is so sharp and crisp that it's almost like I'm going to cut myself on it. And if you look at the tree in the center, you got a lot of stuff going on with that tree. There's stuff, there's white highlights in the middle of it. It's crispy. The leaves feel crunchy. I think the processing, you've pushed it a little bit too far to make it look authentic. The composition is really nice. I like the curve to the road, the curve to the sidewalk, and I like the way that curve is picked up by the gaps in the clouds. I mean, you have a nice flow of motion that works from right to left, and that makes it strong. You caught the lightning bolt, which adds to it, but it's the processing is just overdone. You got to back off just a little bit, particularly on contrast or sharpness, because those are the ones that will punch it up. You might try using a little playing with that dehaze filter, and that will help soften that a little bit, but it's just too crunchy. So it's an 8.
Dwarfed.
When I looked at this image, you feel vast space. I mean, it it's not a pano, but it feels like it ought to be, because I don't know how you get that much space in there without it. I mean, there's just so much space that's involved with this, such a vast area, and there is so much going on throughout this whole thing. There is clearly a storm happening in the lower part of the clouds. I can see the rain coming down in sheets in different places. I see the textures in the rain. I see the motion of the swirling clouds in the sky. And then the wind turbines that are just, as you said, dwarfed, give magnitude and power to the feeling of nature. This is just so dramatic. Um, I'm going to give it a 10, but I'm going to ask if you would to take that white cloud in the top of the sky and tone it down just a little bit because it's the brightest part of the picture. And the story is the storm. And you don't need that bright nothing to draw me away from the storm. Uh, in fact, if you even, I'm not saying you have to crop it off, but if you did crop it down from the top and just look at the rest of the picture, it's still powerful. I mean, it's just so dramatic with what you have in those lower clouds and the storm at the bottom. It's just, it's amazing. It's a 10, maybe an 11. I can be generous.
Sure. This is a nice snowy afternoon for a bike ride.
Oh, yes, I remember the bike ride. Yes. All right. Someone said it's hard to get the snow to come out. This guy got the snow to come out. I mean, this is a snowfall. I mean, it's really very powerful. It's you can feel. I feel the snow coming down. I feel the cold, and I feel that like that is a wet, sticky, heavy, miserable snow that is going to cut you right down to the bone. The image has power. It has drama. It has the weather. It has the snow, and the nice little bike rider adds a little bit to it. You got yourself a 10.
Sunrise after the storm.
Okay. When I look at this image, the strength of the image is the tower and the fact that it is so well separated, it stands out. And even with all of that clutter in the foreground, the tower still was very dramatic, very powerful, and it stands out. The fact that it has a pointy top to it and the fact that it has a cross on top of that all add to the strength of the tower and make it stand out. But I think you've got just way too much clutter going on over here on the left-hand corner, and there's those branches stuck in on the right edge at the top. They're not doing anything to help your story. Um, so if you play with some of the tones in here and clean up that composition a little bit, I think it'll be stronger. And this one came out as an 8.
Soaring through the mist.
All right. The story is the eagle. The story is not the mist. It's not the snow. It's not it's the eagle, because the eagle dominates the scene, and the scene in the background doesn't have enough story in it. It's too soft. There's no drama in it. It's just a soft sky. And what that does is it takes all the attention away from everything other than the eagle. And so all you see is the bird and you're not paying attention to anything else. And if the issue is to get weather, then we got to do something to make the weather more dominant than the bird itself. So that's an 8.
3 strikes, you're out.
Just in time for opening day, right?
There you go.
Okay. I got weather. I have enough weather to make this interesting. The lightning is kind of neat. So that works. The the clouds are valid, but the city, there's some lights on it, and the problem is you've got this massive black, dark foreground. And if you pull a little detail out of it, again, it's all about tones and using the full tonal range when you go black and white rather than just using ends of it. And if you get some of those tones to come out, it'll give some life to the image. It'll add some interest. The lightning gives you enough storm to have enough weather to make it interesting. Um, so you might even drop some of that stuff from the top and crop out some of those branches because they really aren't doing anything for you. Um, I mean, your sky talks about height and power and clouds and all that stuff, and then I have these high tree branches on the side, and they're not connected to anything, and they don't belong there. So, reducing those in some one way or another would be. Um, I'm just looking at this on my screen. If I cropped 1.5 inches off the left and came down 1.5 inches from the top, I could get rid of that whole branch and put all the focus back on the lightning on the other side of the image where all the story is. Um, it's an 8.
Lizard.
All right. Um, lots of lots of stormy stuff going on in here. I like the materialization of the trees through the mist or through the clouds or whatever they happen to be. That adds a lot of strength and interest to the story because that transparency makes it feel like the cloud is moving, like it's drifting across. The fact that the cloud has some curl to it adds a feeling of motion and adds more to that drifting feeling, and it makes the image much more interesting. I like the diagonals that run across the image and kind of lift me going across the screen. So that again, that adds to the feeling of motion. So all those pieces together add a lot of drama to it. Um, I would I made this a 9.
The answer to the question, how far do ricochets of rain travel in 1/60th of a second?
That's a long 28 characters for a title.
Yeah, that's
Uh, yeah. Um, okay. You got a lot of stuff going on in there and a lot of different angles and stuff bouncing around in it. But what I'm missing in this is something that is sharp enough to hold the image together because it's just a lot of scattered stuff that uh, I'm not sure if it's rain, if it's snow, if it what it has a very cluttered but a very it lacks the purpose and power of that previous image that we saw where we had such powerful snow in it. This just feels like it's a lot of stuff going on without a whole lot of purpose to it. So I made this an 8.
lonely and stormy.
Okay. When I look at this, I don't feel the storm. I feel clouds. I don't feel storm. The image is sharp. The image is clear. I like the tonal range of it. Because I've got some good blacks and I've got almost some perfect whites. So there's a good tonal range in this. I like the way the foliage over on the right side has the lines that move it up the hill and over the top, and it feels like I'm moving going across the prairie or across the grounds, whatever. So I have that feeling of movement and depth that goes with it. I think it's a really powerful, strong image. I just don't think it shows a whole lot of bad weather or storm. Um, I made this an 8.
Rain won't stop us.
Okay. When you look at this, the whole story is the woman at the bottom. She's got the bright umbrella, she's got the bright face, and she's got the rain. The rest of the image is just kind of a non-contributor. That black band across the top is is it's breaking up the image and not adding a lot to it. I feel that if you had tilted the camera down just a little bit and cut off some of those people at the top and given me a little bit more of the woman, you'd have a stronger image and the woman would be more dominant. And the rain that's showing on the black of her umbrella and on the black of her coat would make your story stronger and more powerful. So it's an 8.
Prepared for rain.
All right. Um, I think there's enough going on in here to make this thing really interesting. The colored you have the bright oranges and reds in the background, but the fact that that umbrella has so much color to it brings me back and locks me in on the guy in the front. And then with him moving across the screen, and then I can see on the surface in front of him, I can see the rain hitting, I can see the splashes, I can see the connection to it. So I've got the storm feel, I've got the connections in that to make it all kind of interesting. I would crop down just a tiny bit from the top to get that triangle over on the left side, just where you have that mixed tone, that darker shade on the up against the where it bumps into the light colors. If you just drop that off, I don't need that extra extra distraction at the top. But the guy in the middle is good. He's strong enough. He comes out as a 9.
Denver downpour.
All right. This is I love this. This is great. You did a wonderful job with this. Um, you that lamp at the top is the magical part of the whole story because the rain in that light is clear. It is, you can tell it's a heavy storm. You can tell it's coming down. I can see the marks on the cars in the center. The one thing I would do to it is I would crop up from the bottom so I can lose that bright white spot over on the left-hand side because that is drawing me away from everything else in this image is fantastic. Just powerful and amazing. And the rain is really strong. I have a great feeling of storm. This is a 9.
Winter whispers.
All right, another snowy picture, and this one works really well. Um, the snow on the tree is dramatic. It's bright enough to pull me into the picture. And because you have that snow on the tree in lines that move across the screen, and the lines are diagonal lines make my eye move. And so you're moving me across that picture, and you're letting me have a chance to soak in and feel the snow that's coming down. And there's a lot of snow coming down. And so I really feel the weather, the winter, the chill, it all kind of comes together. And one of the things that I really like is the fact that you have that window on the left side and the fact that the window is orange. Because what you've got is a cold image with a warm promise. That window with that orange is warmth, comfort. Inside the window, I can be comfortable. Outside and here, I'm in this miserable weather and I'm freezing to death. I think you put the pieces of this together in a wonderful, powerful way. You get a 10.
Frozen beach.
Okay. Um, this is a hard image to really grasp because it's hard to tell what it is. If it's ice, I know it's ice, but it doesn't it doesn't feel like it's enough ice. It just feels like I don't understand what it is. I think the light on it is too flat. I think the contrast is too weak, and it doesn't bring the edges up. If you look at the right edge of the ice, right along the edge of the ice, you've got good tones, good drama, good interest that tells an icy story. As you move to the other side, the image gets very dull and very flat, and that takes away the drama that you have with the ice. Um, so if you work those tones, you can pick the image up. Without it, it's an 8.
This is advancing storm at sunset.
Oh yeah. I, the clouds are magnificent. The clouds are just magnificent. And at the base of the clouds where you have that colored band, the orangish tones, you can see the rain. You can see the storm clouds. You can see that curtain of rain as it comes down. And that gives such power to the storm to go with the clouds. I think the foreground is wonderful. It's 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 got interest, but it's subordinate to the clouds. I don't even notice. The foreground is a supporting character. It's not it's not the story. It's not the interest. The interest is the storm, and that's where I want the interest to be. And you've got it in the right proportions with the right emphasis in the right places. The little guy in the red jacket doesn't even matter because my eye is not leaving the middle of that picture. The power of the center is so strong that it just you don't go away from it. You're trapped by the storm. You're captivated by the storm. It just overpowers everything. it's a 10, maybe an 11 and a half, somewhere in that range.
And this is freezing your tail off. And Fred, again, after this one, will hit the 9s and 10s that we've had in the second batch.
This image is, I can see the snow. I can see, and it's got those little bluish tones. So it's cold. I get the fact that it's cold, but the the subject, the cattails, are so busy that they detract from anything. When you get something like this, and you want to, if because you're not making the snow the subject. The subject is the cattails, because that's what stands out in the image. That's what separates itself. But they are so cluttered that they lose strength. What you need to look for are edges of the cattails where they're not, don't get the group in the center, get a group on the edge, because then you can isolate pieces of it. And by isolating pieces, you give strength to the ones that are there. But the cattails are more, the fewer cattails you have, the stronger they're going to be. And when you have so much going on, it weakens the image and doesn't give it power. So find an edge, get a corner, make those pieces stand out. Maybe you get a lower angle and lift them up to separate them and give them some pop so they have some power and strength, and the image will become stronger. It's an 8.
All right, so this is when exploring, Colorado Grand Lake is not to be missed. And this is from Steve Kearns. Is Steve in the room? Because I don't think he's on Zoom here.
Room.
Okay, unfortunately, he didn't leave any notes about the image, but obviously we know where it is. It's a great shot. Dwarfed is from John Salisbury.
Yeah, thanks so much for the comments. I appreciate it, man. This is out in Pawnees National Grasslands. And in the summer, you can pretty much be counted on big storms developing like this. So this was actually a pretty old shot of mine with much less quality camera. And so I actually upscaled this through some stuff in Photoshop, and then just kind of tweaked it a bit. But I see what you mean about the white in the top of the sky, so appreciate that. And I appreciate your comments.
I like the picture.
Yeah, it's a great image, John. Nice snowy afternoon for a bike ride is from John Helfrich.
This is a shot taken in Waterton Canyon back in December of I think it was 2019, when we actually had a snowy December. I took this with my iPhone. This was a hike, just a hike down Waterton Canyon.
The snow's great.
I always love to see what members do with their phones. Okay, yeah, Blizzard. This is from Brian Donovan. And it appears Brian did not join us this evening, and he didn't leave any notes about this either, so don't know where it is or what. But like you said, Larry, the I don't know, I guess it's the wind blowing up the snow on the right side there or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That makes the image. That's awesome.
Yeah, you get those updrafts, and they do amazing things.
For Rain is from Oz Fenninger.
Yeah, so I was in Venice a number of years ago, and then we went to the island of Burano, where all the buildings are very colorful. It's a rainy day, and I was shooting, protecting my camera with an umbrella, which makes it difficult to photograph. But yeah, this guy was walking along, and so I snapped a picture.
Very nice result too. And the Denver downpour is from Kiefer Hunniford.
Yeah, thanks for the feedback. This was a night that Kyle and I were out. We were about to go home when the heavens opened, and it turned into this. We were in shelter, and I was just waiting for people to walk through that space. I just like to see.
It was a fun night.
It's an effective composition.
Now, Winter Whispers is from Laura Blake. And in the chat, she put, thank you for the kind words. Took this photo during a very big snowstorm that we had last winter. The house is in the Washington Park area. Spent some good time on the post-processing. Thanks again.
Paid off.
Yes, indeed. Advancing Storm at Sunset is from Terry Hanford.
Thank you for your comments. This was in the Badlands. I guess it looks like it. This, as other people said, on the plains, oftentimes in the spring, you can just really count on big storms rolling through. And this was close to sunset, and one just started forming. It was just covered the whole horizon. So just a small piece of it. I do think the person gives some scale to both the environment and the storm coming in. So I really liked that and appreciated that he wore red, so he really popped there.
So, Terry, was that somebody who was with you or just somebody who wandered by?
Yeah, I was actually at a workshop, and he was trying to teach me leading lines. And instead, I just got the leading leader.
That'll work too. Nice work. Stunning image. Yeah, we got about a dozen more images and then we're all set for the evening. Yeah, this is Lonely but Not Alone.
Okay. The trees are nice. You brought the trees out really well. They have a lot of detail and that gives them a lot of interest to go with it. Again, I don't feel the storm. I feel the aftermath or prelude to it or something. But the trees are really powerful, and I like the tonal range that you used in bringing those out. And your white foreground across the bottom is a white foreground across the bottom. And it really draws the eye away from those trees a little bit. You might reduce that foreground just a little bit so you wouldn't have so much of a band of just empty white at the bottom. But the trees are magnificent. This is a 9.
No blast.
Okay. I like the tree on the side. What I see the storm, I see the mist in the background, but what feels very, very awkward is the tree on the left has no place to live. You didn't get the base of it. It just feels like it's kind of, I mean, you have a foreground, you have that snowbank or wherever it is across the bottom of it, but the tree feels like it's been artificially just kind of pasted onto the screen, and it doesn't feel like it's part of it. So by giving it a place to stand and a place to live on, it would make it stronger. So it's an 8.
Sanctuary in a Storm.
I really like the tones in this. I really the 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 soft tones in this make the image really dramatic, really interesting. I feel it has a nice balance to it, although you might balance the width on both sides evenly so that it doesn't feel overbalanced to one side. Um, I like the separation between the church and the background. It all has a nice feel to the image, but again, I don't feel the weather. I don't feel the storm. It's like it's all over with. And in fact, it's cleared up quite a bit because while there's snow on the trees, the plaza in front of the church is clear. So it's not telling the story of a storm. Um, so this one is an 8.
Stormy Skies over the Serengeti.
All right. Um, I like the detail in the clouds over on the left, and I like the sunrise or the sunset, whatever it is that's in the center to kind of balance it off. And you have the blues and the oranges and the yellows, which are complementary colors, and they work well together. You have a feeling of vastness within the screen, but the very, very bright spot in the upper right-hand corner is a great distractor. It's taking everything away from the image and pulling you up to that right-hand corner because it's so bright compared to everything else, and that's what weakens the image. You have to find a way to tone that down or introduce the textures to the clouds or something to make that soften it up a little bit or reduce it. One or the other. So this is an 8.
You're never too old to act young.
Delightful, delightful image. It's an excellent conversion to black and white. The detail, the structure, the lines are very powerful, very interesting. The closed eyes, the sheer joy that she's having is very palpable. You can feel it throughout the image. And then you've got this magnificent snow. And that really makes the image so much more interesting, so powerful. I really like the fact that you got lucky and you have that one snowflake that's just about to hit her tongue, and that adds just a little touch of interest to the image. I find this absolutely delightful. Just I could look at this thing all night long. Th this is a 10.
Fire Cloud, Longmont 2020.
All right, I'm going to go back and let's talk about the weather in this. I've got a sun, I got a colorful sky. I get that every night. I get sunset all the time, and I don't feel the storm. Um, the black leaves on the side are kind of a balance to the sun, but they're not interesting leaves. They're just leaves. You need something in the image that is going to be something interesting, something that stands out as being unusual, a little bit different. Even a bare branch tree or something would add a little bit of drama or interest to it. Otherwise, it, it's a silhouette of leaves, and there's no real feel of the storm. So it's an 8.
Heart of the Woods.
All right. All right. The first thing is that you did a nice job of getting tone in the foreground. If I can look in that and I can see the trees. I can see the mass of them, and they are defined and they are clear, and that gives the foreground a great deal of interest. I like the diagonal line coming from the upper left, slicing across the picture to the lower right. I think that line adds a bit of strength to it. I don't think you need all of that white on the top side, because it's a huge area of just empty white. The story is the trees and the trees in the mist in the center of the picture. If you if you look at the left side of the frame and you come down about an inch or so until you hit to that first clump of trees that sticks out on the left almost towards the center, get take off the white above that and just leave me with the lower section there, because the story is the mist and the story is the trees in the center, and that's where the power and the excitement is. And this was a 9.
Somewhere Under a Rainbow.
Okay. The rainbow gives you your weather feel, your stormy feel to it, and that's what adds the picture to it. I think you push the saturation pretty high. And you've got too much saturation, so the thing almost looks like it's radioactive or something. I mean, you need to tone that down a little bit, and it would have a more natural feel to the image, and it wouldn't be so jarring. I like the composition. I like the fact that I like what your title says, somewhere under the rainbow, because you've got the city and you've got the bench and you've got it all under the rainbow, so that all that fits together. But you kind of back off those sliders a little bit. It's an 8.
Beginning to clear.
All right. I thought I did this one. Maybe I just did it so many times this afternoon. I'm still looking at it. All right. I like the vertical format of this that I think really brings it up and makes it stand up, literally. The fact that it runs high into the clouds at the top. You've got this one rock formation in the center, and that's the centerpiece. That's the story of it. But you've blended it into the other pieces in the background behind it. You get a little lower camera angle, you'll lift more of that formation up, get it some separation, make it stand out, and then it will become more powerful because you're not showing the weather here, you're showing the formation. Uh, the weather has already happened, and now we're looking at the aftermath and not the weather itself. So the story becomes more about the rock than it does the weather. So by getting down, you lift it up and make the rock more powerful. It's an 8.
Morning fog at the lake.
All right. The ducks are a plus. You have the water in the foreground. You have good detail in the forest over on the right-hand side. I can walk into that forest. I can feel it. It's part of me. Um, you've got a whole lot of white fog on the left-hand side that A isn't moving, and B, it's almost got some detail, but there's an awful lot of white that doesn't have detail, and it weakens the interest. I mean, I look at the left because it's bright, but I'm more interested in the right because it's got detail and there's something I can walk into and feel. So you haven't built a strong enough case for the bright to be important. So you're not, and the weather in that isn't strong enough. There's not a lot of gusty shadows or gusty wisp of fog or something. It's a soft white that lacks interest. So this is an 8.
I think it might rain.
Me too. Um, this works. I mean, this has this has drama, this has strength, this has power to it. That curve, that bow in the clouds that kind of swings off on the right-hand side is really very dramatic. Um, the center white spot has a little bit of color to it, so it's not just white. There's interest. I can feel a down thrust of some of the weather from the angles of what's up in the clouds. That's all really interesting and powerful. The only thing I don't like is that your foreground, you've made it an accident. There's not enough of it to make it feel like it belongs. If you increased it a little bit and gave those mountains a place of their own. So, because mountains are big, mountains are massive, mountains are powerful, and you've dwarfed them to anthills. The storm is effective, but you could even if you had to just back up an extra step to get more of that foreground so that the mountains play a role in the picture. Whenever you put composition together, if an element in the composition is worth having, then it's worth giving it a place of honor in the picture and making it play a role. Don't just slide it in there by accident because this could be so powerful if you just had a little bit more foreground. But the power of the storm is really nice. It came out as a 9.
All right, that was our last image of the evening, but we do have a couple more 9s and 10s we need to go sneak a peek at. So that's Lonely But Not Alone from Joy Lindholm.
Thank you. Appreciate the comments. This was taken at the Bear Creek Greenbelt in Lakewood the first week of March when we finally got snow in Denver this winter. I kind of rushed out in a panic thinking this might be my only chance to get something current for the competition, and it was positively pelting snow. It was a really kind of wet, heavy, and ended up getting pretty soaked. So yeah, I kind of like appreciated the minimalist feel of this. I did a lot of work cleaning up. There's a lot of the kind of grassy sticks sticking out at the bottom, so I wanted to have a bit of a cleaner foreground. Um, and, you know, kind of just push the contrast. So it popped. But yeah, again, appreciate it.
It does have a strong feeling of minimalism. That came out quite well.
Thank you.
You're never too old to act young. It's from Steve Kearns. And I'm afraid Steve didn't leave any notes about this, but do we really need any? I mean, it just looks like a fun image.
Absolutely.
Yes, problem.
Timing was perfect too. That's good. And Heart of the Woods is from John Salisbury.
Yeah, thanks again. I appreciate what I could hear. The Zoom kind of dropped out some of the audio there for a bit, but I do appreciate it. I could not tell you where this was taken, up in the mountain somewhere, because it's an older picture. And I actually cropped it quite a bit. The original one had quite a bit more sky. I'm kind of a textural addict, and I knew that that would be more upsetting for some. So anyway, I cut it down more toward the center, and I appreciate your thoughts.
It's a real nice image, John.
Thank you.
And I Think It Might Rain is from Brian Donovan.
It's not on.
All right, and yeah, Brian's not on, and unfortunately didn't leave any notes about this, but it's a really cool image.
Yeah.
Here's the last one. Amazing.
I'm gonna hit the lights, guys.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you to everyone who submitted images for this and all the trials and tribulations you had to go through to either make an image or find an image. If I do weather photography again, we'll put it later in the year, so it'll be easier. But part of the reason that years ago I started doing the PDF for the website that has all the topics for the year is, so that people would, either copy that to their phone or print it out and stick it in a camera bag or whatever, so that when you're out shooting whatever you're shooting, you're also thinking about stuff that would be in future competitions, maybe capturing something that you wouldn't normally find. And now we had some great images. Larry, thank you very much for your wonderful comments. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. I enjoy doing them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks, Larry. Really good constructive feedback.
Well, I hope you all got something worthwhile from it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We talk all the time about when you come to a competition, you learn more about photography by listening to what's said about other people's images than what's said about your own.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Thanks for coming, everybody. Kind of a shorter competition tonight than they have been.
Yeah, we didn't have 60 images this time.
Exactly. See everybody on second Wednesday in April, the 9th, for Josh Berkowitz's program on presenting in a gallery.
That would be April 8th, yes.
Yeah.
For month's competition is open.
Open.
Yeah, next one is open, so.
Thank you so much for having me.
Easy for everybody. Yeah, thank you, Larry. Thank you for staying up late to be with us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Y'all take care and enjoy your weather.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks again. All right. Good night, all.
Good night, Carl.